Okay, you guys, so we're starting out this week with making something very, very simple. I went ahead and rinsed some baby lima beans, got them all nice and ready to go. I added them in a pot of cold water. I added a ham hock, which is right there, and a quarter of an onion. And I'm just going to let this cook for about an hour, and then we'll come back in and check and see how well the beans are cooked, and then we'll add our seasoning. Now, the reason why I don't add any seasoning now is I don't like the way the beans cook. It tends to cook a little bit more evenly throughout the bean if I don't add any salt or seasonings that have salt in it. So that's how I do it. If you want to add salt at this point, you can go right on ahead and add salt. I'm just going to let these cook and sit here and get all delicious, and then I'll bring you back. We'll add some seasoning. All right, you guys, so these beans have been cooking for about an hour. They're not quite done yet. They've still got a little bit longer to cook. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my seasoning. I'm going to add in a little bit of onion powder. Add as much or as little as you want. You can do this by taste. So you can add just a little bit, let it cook for a little bit, and then taste it and see if you need any more. I'm going to add in some garlic powder. And I've got a little packet of this seasoning mix here. It's really, really good in beans. So I'm just going to add in 1 packet since I have 1 pound of beans. You can add 2 packets if you want. And it gives it this beautiful orange color. It's so pretty. And it gives it wonderful, wonderful flavor. And I'm going to add a little bit of pepper. And I'm going to hold off on the salt for now until right before the beans get completely cooked through. And then I'll add the salt then. So I'm just going to give this a little stir, and I'm going to let this finish cooking up. It's going to take another 30 minutes or so. And then in the meantime, I'll make some cornbread. I've made cornbread on this channel many times before, so I will leave the link to the cornbread down in the description box below. But beans are pretty simple. You just add your beans, your water, and some form of meat. If you're a vegetarian or vegan, leave it out. And then whatever seasonings you like. So I'm going to go ahead and make some cornbread, and then I will show you everything when it gets done. All right, so I just got these delicious bowl of beans here, and I just added some freshly chopped onions to go on the top of that, and I just served it with some cheddar cornbread. It's absolutely delicious. I will leave the link to my cornbread recipe down in the description box below. But these were very simple to make, and they're very budget friendly and absolutely delicious. Okay guys, so today I'm going to be making some homemade chips. I'm going to be making my homemade malt vinegar chips. They're absolutely delicious. And I'm also going to be making some sausage dogs with onions and peppers. So we're going to start off with the chips. So I've got a few potatoes here that I've just got thinly sliced, and I soaked them in some cold water with about a half of a cup of vinegar. And then I drained them and I patted them as dry as I could possibly get. And I'm just going to add those right in here. And I'm going to cook these until they are nice and golden brown. And then I'm going to remove them to a tray that I've got lined with a little bit of paper towels. And then I'm just going to add some salt to them. Now, it doesn't take long for these to cook. It takes just a couple of minutes. Once they start to turn brown and nice and golden color, they are good to go. Now, the thicker ones, if you cut them a little bit thicker, they'll take a little bit longer. So I just take them and remove them as they get brown. So that way they don't burn. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish all of these up. It's going to take me a few minutes. But then when they get done, I'll bring you back, and then we will add the malt vinegar to them. Okay, now that the potatoes are cooking up and they're getting nice and golden brown, we're going to go ahead and start on the onions and peppers. So to my pan, I'm going to add just a little bit of olive oil. You can add about a tablespoon. And I'm going to add in my onions and my bell pepper. I've got one onion and one bell pepper going in. I'm going to add a little bit of salt just to help sweat out those vegetables, and some pepper. And I'm going to start cooking these down until they start to get tender, and then we'll add in some more seasoning. Okay, so these onions and peppers have been cooking down for about 5 minutes, and they're starting to get tender. All right, so I'm going to add in my mushrooms, and I'm going to let these cook down for about another 5 minutes or so. I kind of want these mushrooms to hold their shape a little bit. I don't want them to cook down and get mushy. So I just want to cook them just enough until they are starting to wilt, because we're going to keep cooking this when we add the sausage. Okay, so these mushrooms are starting to get a little bit of color on them. We're going to go ahead and add in our spices. So first I want to add in a half of a cup of water and some Worcestershire sauce, about a tablespoon. And it's going to give it a lot of flavor. We'll add in some garlic powder and some onion powder, some thyme, about a teaspoon, some seasoning salt, about a half of a teaspoon. And for a little bit of a kick, I'm going to add in some red pepper flakes. Now this is optional, you don't have to add it. And I'm just going to give this a little mix. Make sure everything is coated in that seasoning. I'm going to turn my heat back up just a little bit, because now we are going to add in our sausage. You can also do hot dogs with this as well. We just don't eat hot dogs. We prefer sausage dogs. Now, this is the brand of sausage that we are using. These are really, really good. We buy them locally. Well, they're not too local from us. They're a bit of ways from us, but they are absolutely delicious. So I'm just going to add all of these in here, and I'm going to let these cook until these sausage dogs are completely done. It should take about 5 to 8 minutes. Okay, so the sausage and peppers are done. They're ready to go on the buns. While these are still hot, I'm going to go ahead and season these with a little bit of salt. And I've got some malt vinegar here. You can use any brand that you have or like. And all you're going to do is just sprinkle these with a little bit of malt vinegar. Super, super easy. And those potatoes are going to absorb all of that flavor. We're just going to give these a little toss. These smell so good. Now you can add other seasonings to this too. If you don't want to do malt vinegar, you can do vinegar and salt. You can do just sea salt. You can do salt and pepper. You can even do cinnamon sugar. They're really, really good. So those are done. I'm just going to let these sit and hang out and let them cool completely. I'm going to tidy up a bit, and then we'll be ready to make our plate. Okay, here is my plate. I just have these delicious malt vinegar chips here. Like I said, you can do any kind of seasoning on these potatoes if you don't like malt vinegar. Be absolutely delicious. And I've also got the sausage and peppers dog here, and I just cooked those hot dogs down with the sausage and peppers, and it was absolutely delicious. Very, very filling meal. Okay, guys, so for today's dinner, I'm going to be making one of our family favorites, and that is slow cooked beef tips with rice. I'm going to make a vegetable to go with it later, probably some green beans or broccoli. We love green beans and broccoli in this house, so we have a ton of it. So to start, I've got my old Dutch oven here, and I've got a lid over here and a plate. I've got my heat set to medium low. I'm going to add a little bit of oil to my pan, and this is just to cook the meat in. So we're going to cook the meat in batches. I've got some beef tips here that I've got a little bit of oil, salt, and pepper on. And I'm just going to probably do this in a couple of batches. I'm going to add this beef down in there, and I'm going to sear it on both sides. It doesn't have to be cooked completely through. All right, now that I've got the meat in there, I've got it all in a single layer. I'm just going to cook this on both sides until they are nice and golden brown on each side. They're not going to be completely cooked through. Then I'm just going to remove it to my plate here and finish up the rest of the batches of the meat. Okay, so I've cooked all of the meat and I've got it sitting over here on a plate waiting. I'm going to add a little bit more oil to my pan here, and I'm going to cook down some onions. I've got an onion here, just one onion that I've got diced up. I'm going to add those to my pot. With a little bit of salt, just to help sweat the onions down. And a little bit of pepper. And I'm going to cook these down until they get tender. They don't have to be too tender, just tender enough, because this is going to cook for a while. So I'm going to go ahead and get these cooked down, and then we'll move on. We'll add everything back to the pot. Okay, so these onions have been cooking down just for a few minutes, about 5 minutes. I've got some garlic here, 2 cloves of garlic that I just got minced up. I'm going to add those right in there, and I'm going to let these cook for about 30 seconds. You'll start to smell them. When they get fragrant, you can add all of your other ingredients. It doesn't take that long at all. Okay, so now I'm just going to add in about a teaspoon of thyme. And some Worcestershire sauce. Give that a little mix. All right, so I've got some beef broth here. I'm just going to go ahead and add that right in there. And then I'm going to scrape up any of the brown bits that are stuck onto the bottom of the pan. And I'm going to bring this up to a boil. It should take about 5 minutes or so to come up to a boil. All right, so while that is doing its thing, I'm going to tidy up a little bit, and then we'll come back and add the beef and the bay leaf. All right, so this has come up to a simmer. I'm going to go ahead and add in my bay leaf. I've just got one little bay leaf here. Let's add that. I'm just going to add that in there. And I am going to add back my beef. Be very careful so it don't splash on you, and add all of those juices back in there. I think beef tips is one of my favorite dinners. I remember having it all the time when I was little because my mom knew I loved it, so she made it quite a lot. All right, so I've got that in there. I'm going to turn my heat down to low, about medium low, and bring this back up to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, I'm going to add the lid, turn it on low, and let this cook for about an hour. And then I'll bring you back, and then I'll show you what it looks like. In the meantime, I'm going to make some rice to go along with this and find some sort of vegetable to go with it as a side. So I'll see you in a bit. All right, you guys. So this has been cooking for an hour and it smells absolutely delicious. I'm going to go ahead and take out this bay leaf. It's done its job. I'm just going to set it right there. Give this a little stir. All right, so I've got some cornstarch and water here. It's just a mixture of 1/3 cup of water and about 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. And I'm just going to add a little bit of this until I get the consistency that I want. And I'm just going to let this thicken up. Okay, so this has thickened up. I'm going to go ahead and adjust the seasoning on this, and then everything will be good to go. And I'm waiting on my rice. It's got about 2 more minutes left, and then this will be ready to plate up. Okay, so here is my plate. I have the beef tips and rice here. You can also serve this over mashed potatoes. My husband loves them over mashed potatoes. Me and my daughter prefer them over rice, but we do some compromise. And I just serve them with some sauteed green beans with a little bit of onion and garlic, a little bit of olive oil, salt and pepper. Absolutely delicious. Okay guys, sorry about that. My battery camera died. In my bowl here, I've got flour, salt, and baking soda. And the original recipe does not call for cinnamon, but I'm going to add just a little bit, probably about 1/2 teaspoon, just to add a little bit of cinnamon flavor, but not too much. And I'm just going to whisk this together until it's well combined, and I'm going to set this to the side and work on the wet ingredients. All right, so in this bowl I've got some butter, and we're going to cream some butter and sugar together. I've just got a stick of room temperature butter, and I'm going to add a cup of sugar. And we're just going to cream this together until it's mixed pretty well together. Okay, so I've got the butter and sugar mixed together. You can do this with an electric mixer if you want to. I'm just going to do it by hand. But I've got this mixed together, and now I've got 2 eggs that I've beaten. I'm going to add those in. As well as my bananas. And I'm just going to mix this together until everything is well combined. And I also forgot to mention I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. Now in the original recipe, it's a different time and bake time. But for today, I'm just going to bake it at 350 until it is completely cooked through. So I've got my oven set, and I'm just going to mix this together until it's pretty much well combined. All right, so I've got that mixed together, and now I'm just going to go ahead and add in some vanilla. You can add in as much or as little as you want. I'm going to do about 2 teaspoons. And now I'm just going to give this a mix. And I'm going to add it to my flour mixture. We'll get rid of this and bring my spoon back, or my spatula, and add it in there. And I'm just going to mix this together until it's almost combined, and then we'll add in our pecans. Okay. Now I like to add them like this so that way the pecans get coated in that flour. So I'm going to add those in there and continue to mix until everything is completely mixed. Make sure to scrape that bottom too, because that flour will get stuck on the bottom. I've also got a loaf pan that I've already greased. If you don't have a nonstick, you can do grease and flour or you can do grease and parchment paper, whatever you want to do. All right, so I tidied up a bit, and don't mind the dishes. I'll do those in just a minute. I've got my loaf pan here, and I'm just going to add my batter down into the loaf pan. This smells so good. We love banana nut bread. I just don't cook it as often as I should, but it's absolutely delicious. So I'm just going to level this out. Now, baking times, if you're going to do this per the directions, I will put this recipe up on my blog. Hopefully soon. I've got a few more recipes I need to put up. So if you are doing this per the directions, it's $250 for an hour and a half. If you're not doing this per directions, I will cook it at 350 degrees between 35 to 45 minutes. It really just depends on your oven. And then just keep an eye on the temperature in the center of the bread. You can check it with a toothpick, and if it comes out clean, it's pretty much done. So I'm going to get this in the oven, 350 degrees, between 35 to 45 minutes. It might take a little bit longer. So I will show you what it looks like when it comes out of the oven. All right, you guys, so this banana bread cooked for 50 minutes at 350 degrees. Your oven temperatures may vary, so I would just keep an eye on it. And if you poke the center with a toothpick, if it comes out clean or with a few moist crumbs, it's done. But this made our house smell absolutely delicious. I love this in the morning with coffee with a little bit of butter spread on top. So, so good. But that is going to wrap up this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to leave me a comment. And don't forget to share this video. And yeah, subscribe if you are new. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.